Thanks, Malta. All right, hello. Today I'll be presenting some work done in collaboration with Bilge Mutlu at University of Wisconsin and Adriana Tapus at Tech. And in this work, we're interested in social robots that are primarily intended to motivate users to do something, like a health-related or otherwise self-improving task. And there are a number of current examples of social robots that are intended to be motivational in some way. So there are robots that are designed to be social companions for older adults, helping them take their medication or check their blood pressure or to stay connected with their families. There are robots like Paro the seal and Ollie the otter designed to be therapeutic aids. Robots like DragonBot are being designed to assist children, including children with autism. And there's research being done on robots to help in stroke therapy, motivating patients to carry out repetitive physical tasks that help in their rehabilitation. And so all of these robots fall under the label of socially assistive robots. So just as a human coach or teacher can provide motivation, guidance, or assistance and support, socially assistive robots attempt to provide the appropriate emotional, cognitive, and social cues to encourage development, learning, or therapy for an individual. And now robots have recently started appearing in Hollywood movies as helpful and motivational companions rather than their usual Age of Ultron depiction as murderous villains. So here's an example from the film Robot and Frank from a few years back, in which the robot is trying to motivate Frank to do something.
Frank, you need a project. Mental stimulation plus a regimented schedule will vastly improve your cognitive functioning. Besides, it's good exercise. Frank, we're going to have to work together.
You are a robot butler.
I'm not a butler, Frank. I'm a healthcare aide, programmed to monitor and improve your physical and mental health.
Yeah? Get out of my house.
If you're not going to cooperate with me, I might as well not be here.
Fine with me.
Okay, so that's probably not the kind of interaction we want to see. So how then do we design our robots to be more effective motivators? Well, one way we might make robots more engaging and motivational is to give them some personality. And the idea of giving robots personalities is actually a subject that made headlines a few weeks ago when Google applied for a patent on some technology that would allow social robots to express customizable personalities. Looking back through the history of HCI more broadly, there has been a large amount of work on personality. And one of the things that has been studied is how we might design interfaces to express personality that match a user's personality. And so this is based on the theory of similarity-attraction, which predicts positive attraction to those with matching personalities. And this theory has been supported in the design of interfaces that express a matching personality through language, pictures, and sound, as well as expressing personality in a synthesized voice that matches a user's personality and improves their feelings of social presence. So this brings up a new question. How can we design robots to express specific personalities? Well, there are a number of ways that personality is expressed in speech, gestures, facial expressions, and everything we do. In this work, we focused on gaze behavior. So previous work has found that gaze behavior is closely tied to extroversion and introversion, with extroverts engaging in more mutual gaze than introverts do. But also gaze is directly linked to motivation and persuasion, according to a couple of psychological theories, including arousal intimacy theory, which predicts mutual gaze to produce perceptions of intimacy leading to compliance, and demand theory, in which mutual gaze produces arousal that can be alleviated by complying to the demand of the gazer. So all of this leads to our overall research question in this work. How can a socially assistive robot use its gaze behaviors to express personality and effectively motivate users to engage in a therapeutic task? So for this project, we had three main phases. First, we sought to understand how people use their gaze when motivating and how that's tied to their personalities. We implemented some personality expressive gaze behaviors on a robot platform, and we evaluated the effectiveness of those behaviors in a lab study. So first, I'll discuss the understanding phase. We collected some data of human-human interactions where the shared task was to repeatedly solve the Tower of Hanoi puzzle. So we chose this task because it has a mix of cognitive and physical elements, solving the puzzle, and physically moving the blocks around. So it maps well to tasks commonly used in cognitive and physical rehabilitation. We collected data from 4 participant dyads. One was the instructor and motivator, while the other participant was the worker responsible for solving the puzzles. And we recruited an equal mix of extroverts and introverts, and we assessed their personality using the Big 5 inventory. So here's a video example of what this interaction looked like. The participant on the right is the instructor, and on the left we have the worker. We coded all of our collected videos for the gaze direction of the instructor. We found that they basically alternated between 2 gaze targets, so their partner, the worker, and the task space itself. When coding the videos, we also split the interaction into 2 task phases. The in-task phase was defined as the time during which the worker actually executed the task, and the between-task phase was defined as the time between puzzle solutions when the instructor tried to motivate the worker to keep going and solve more puzzles. So the worker could end the interaction anytime they wished, and it was up to the instructor to keep them going. So now I'll quickly show a breakdown of what we found for the gazes of the instructor. Here you're seeing the instructor's view of the worker and the task space. And these are the average fixation lengths in seconds to the worker and to the puzzle in the between task phase, split between extroverted instructors and introverted instructors. So we're seeing what we might expect here. The extroverts look longer to their partner's face, and the introverts look longer to the puzzle. And we see this same pattern even more pronounced during the in-task phase, the extroverted instructor looking longer to their partner, and introverted instructor looking longer to the puzzle. And so putting these phases side by side, we can see that in general, the between-task phase involves much more gaze to the person, which makes sense because that's when the instructor is providing motivation, encouragement to the worker to keep going. While in the in-task phase, we have much more gaze to the puzzle, which makes sense because the instructor is monitoring the worker's execution of the task. So in terms of generating gaze for a robot instructor, we modeled these fixation times as Gaussians, defined by the mean and standard deviation from all the data we collected. And we draw from these distributions to generate alternating gaze fixations for the robot. So an extroverted robot in the in-task phase, for example, might make a 3-second gaze to the worker, then a 4-second gaze down to the puzzle, then back to the worker, and so on. So now I'll talk a little bit more about the implementation on our robot platform. For this project, we used the Mecha robot platform, and we developed several sensing and behavior components in the overall system that are linked together using ROS, which is an open source robot operating system. On the sensing side, the robot can track the user's face in order to establish mutual gaze. It can track the user's speech to detect when they need help or they want to terminate the interaction. And it can track the state of the task to figure out when the puzzles are complete or to provide automatic help if it detects many wrong moves in a row. These inputs are linked to behavior controllers that generate the appropriate gaze, speech, and gestures for the robot to carry out the interaction. And more details on these controllers are in the paper. So here you can see the difference in the robot's gaze behaviors when it's configured to have an extroverted versus an introverted personality. So notice how the robot on the left is keeping its gaze much more up towards the user, while the robot on the right is spending much more time gazing at the puzzle. So as a manipulation check, we captured 4 videos of the robot's gaze behaviors, 2 extroverted and 2 introverted. And we showed these videos to 22 participants on Mechanical Turk. All participants saw all 4 videos in random order. And they immediately rated the perceived personality of the robot on some 5-point rating scales used in previous research to rate robot personalities. So here's an example of what the interaction looked like with the robot in the extroverted condition.
Okay, I will ask you to solve this puzzle several times in different configurations. We will gradually increase the level of difficulty by adding more discs. Let's begin. Please move the tower from where it is to this peg here. Your new goal is the middle peg. Well done. the puzzle.
All right, so our results from this manipulation check. Here you're seeing the extroversion rating of the robot from 1 to 5. And we indeed found a significant difference in participants' perceptions of what the robot's personality was. So the extroverted robot was seen as more extroverted than the introverted robot, so we can be confident that the conditions are separated along that dimension of personality. So finally, I'll talk about the full evaluation we performed on the effectiveness of these gaze behaviors to not just express personality, but to also motivate participants to complete the Tower of Hanoi puzzle. So this evaluation started with 3 hypotheses. First, that a robot that matches the personality of the user, either extroverted or introverted, would receive higher subjective ratings of its performance. Second, that a personality matching robot would be more successful in motivating a participant to engage in the task for longer. And finally, we hypothesized that there would be an interaction effect from the participant's intrinsic motivation to complete the puzzle. And so by intrinsic motivation, I mean their motivation going into the study totally separate from the extrinsic motivation being provided by the robot. So a participant with high intrinsic motivation would not be affected by the robot, but a participant with low intrinsic motivation would be more susceptible to the robot's persuasion attempts. So we recruited 40 participants for the study, 16 females, 24 males. This study was conducted in France at a university setting where participants might have been most comfortable in French or in English. So we implemented the study in both languages, and we allowed participants to choose which was best for them. We had 30 participants choose French and 10 choose English. And we used a between participants design, fully balanced, so there was an equal mix of extroverted and introverted participants with the extroverted or introverted robot. So here's a quick walkthrough of the task procedure. First, the experimenter provided basic instructions and received consent. Then the robot introduced itself, the task, and explained the rules. At this point, the participants started solving puzzles for as long as they wished, which included a repeating cycle of solving the puzzle, getting feedback from the robot, and motivation to solve more, solving the puzzle again, and so on. And finally, the participants finished the study by indicating to the robot that they wished to quit and then fill out a follow-up questionnaire. So here's a concrete example of what the in-task phase looked like, showing an instance of when the participant asked for help.
I need help.
Would you like some help?
Yes, please.
Try moving the green disc here. Yep. Awesome.
And then following the completion of the puzzle, the robot provides feedback and asks the participant to solve another one.
Well done. You completed the puzzle. Shall we do another one?
Yes, sure.
Okay then. Now let's try moving the tower to here. Your new goal is the right peg.
So this study included a few objective measures that get at task compliance in different ways, including how much total time they spent on the task, how many total puzzles they solved, and how many total block moves they performed. We also had a subjective measure from the follow-up questionnaire, which asked participants to rate the robot's performance. So in terms of capturing intrinsic motivation, we asked an open-ended question in the follow-up questionnaire. Why did you choose to participate for as long as you did? And so these are a couple of examples of answers we received. So this participant said, I was influenced by the feedback I received from the robot, whereas this one said, I was trying to improve my skills by solving the puzzles in fewer steps. So we coded these responses for explicit mentions of an inherent desire to solve the puzzles. So the second one would be coded as high intrinsic motivation. And 27 out of the 40 participants were labeled as high intrinsic motivation, and 13 were labeled as having low intrinsic motivation. So now I'll walk through a few of the results. First of all, for the subjective results, in which we predicted a positive personality matching effect, we found partial support. So you're seeing the rating along the y-axis and the results for extroverted participants with a mismatching or matching robot, and then for introverted participants with a mismatching or matching robot personality. So the difference among extroverted participants was not significant, and the difference among introverted participants was marginal. For the objective results of task compliance, where we again predicted a positive effect of personality matching, we found full support of this hypothesis. Here the measure is the total time spent solving puzzles. And we observed that the extroverted participants worked longer with the extroverted robot, and the same thing for the introverted participants working longer with the introverted robot. And for our final hypothesis, where we predicted an interaction effect from their intrinsic motivation, this is exactly what we observed. So participants with low intrinsic motivation were significantly more affected by the robot's personality condition than participants with high intrinsic motivation. So here again, the measure is the total time spent solving puzzles, and we see a positive matching effect on the left and much less of a positive matching effect on the right. So this project has some limitations that could lead to some future work. First, in terms of the user population, future work should test if these results hold up for targeted populations, such as the elderly or post-stroke patients that really have the most to gain from this research. Second, in terms of the gaze modeling itself, future work might employ some more sophisticated modeling and online adaptation to user characteristics, rather than this offline adaptation, which required us to figure out a user's personality prior to the interaction. And finally, future work should explore other dimensions of personality beyond just extroversions and model these dimensions as a continuum rather than the segmentation into high and low as we were doing here. So to wrap up, I'll leave you with just a few takeaways. First of all, socially assistive robots can really leverage their embodiment and use nonverbal cues to motivate users. Gaze behaviors can be explicitly designed to express extroverted or an introverted personality for these robots. We found personality matching to be an effective strategy. And we also found that intrinsic motivation was a key factor that had to be taken into account if you're trying to achieve these effects. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for listening. I'd be happy to take questions.
We have time for a few questions. Please use the microphone in the middle of the room. Let me start then. I have a question. I was curious about your manipulation of personality through gaze, and I was wondering if you think, this was not in your study particularly, but what role culture plays here and how stable you think that might be perceived across culture and how you might explore that.
Yeah, okay, so the question was about culture and how culture might have affected this. And I think that's a hugely important thing for gaze behavior. I know especially like for, Western versus Eastern culture, how much are you expected to make eye contact with someone? How much are you expected to not stare at someone? So this was, like I said, in France, it was sort of a Western culture. Everyone was coming from the same background. I think if we were trying to develop a more sophisticated model, we would want to take culture into account for sure. I think there would be differences.
We have time for a short question, and I'll ask Alison to set.
My name is Deepak Akela. I'm from University of Tampere. My question is more about, did you consider the dynamics of gaze